Our next guest is a multi-talented journalist, author, TV presenter, podcaster, among other things. Now she's adding comedian to her long list of accolades. Her one-woman show, 50-odd years of Crabb.
That sounds itchy.
Covered 50 lessons she's learned in life, and she's here to share some of them with us. So rude to our guest. Would you please welcome Annabel Crabb?
It's terrible you should say that because I'm just getting out of a childhood knit situation. So I'm just like, wow, how did you know? But, yes. The thing is, I'm not a comedian. This is an expectations management moment. I am funny for a journalist. And that
You're very witty.
But there is a serious line to be drawn here. I'm not a comedian. I don't promote myself as one. So, like, I'm just funnier than you'd expect from a journalist. And that's how I kind of... I'm not in competition with you.
Yeah, no, I'll cut off some of the questions.
That's the thing.
I was going to come at you pretty hard there because you were stealing.
See, that's okay. See how I diffused that?
Yeah, no, beautifully done.
Yeah.
Well
Thank you very
done.
much. Yeah,
That could have gone wrong.
How much comedy can we expect in the show then?
actually heaps, but it's the way you frame it that is very, very significant, right? So I wrote this show when I turned 50 because I sort of feel like if you have a big birthday, you should do something that terrifies you. And I'm very used to being on stage and interviewing people, but I am not at all used to being by myself on stage. So, like, I do a podcast with Lee Sales and we could talk under wet cement for, like, 80 years on stage at the Sydney Town Hall, no problem. But by myself, it's more frightening. So I've constructed a slideshow and I'm presenting 50 things that I've learned from 50 years of life. And essentially, I mean, I save some time with some cooking tips that are quick, but mainly it is humiliating stories that I tell against myself.
You didn't want to keep those to
stand-up.
you didn't want to keep those to yourself, the embarrassing stories?
Here's something that I have learned since I turned 50, which I have to say has been, even though the last few years have not been super easy, just a glorious thing. I'm at the height of my powers in some ways. I'm just decreasingly prepared to put up with bullshit from people. And that is so liberating. But also, I've reached an understanding about what happens when you do something that's stupid, like where you make a fool of yourself, or you know, I mean, you people do enough television to know that it's not a matter of if something is going to go wrong that makes you look like a complete dick. It's a question of when.
There's a phrase for that. It's called doing it for the plot.
Right. It's all content, right? Yeah. And so I now think when I humiliate myself or I do something stupid, I think this is actually not an injury to myself. It's a great gift to others because people love nothing so much as they love to watch somebody else really cock something up. And so I'm giving the people what they want.
You're very generous.
Thank you.
Would you like to give us what we want and, like, tell us one of those stories without ruining the show?
You know, like, I do run through... I mean, it's like, essentially, it's an hour and 50 anecdotes. So some of them are really good cooking tips, but others of them are just sort of quick hits on, like, the time I accidentally drank Hillary Clinton's special glass of hot water that was backstage just before we were doing an event together. Oh. It had a doily on top, and I had a bit of a, like, eh. I thought, oh, how thoughtful. The people didn't like that. The Hillary people, because there are a lot of them, were like... It was a big deal.
Yeah.
The time that my brother shot me in the face when I was a kid, like, I grew up in a regional pocket, just like you, friend.
Yeah, that seems more serious.
Yeah, so, it was inadvertent, and I survived it. But, I mean, when you grow up in the country, you do grow up a bit weirder than other people, and I think, you know, this Adelaide Plains bogan is ready to tell some stories about that. Or the time that, you know, there's a few political stories, obviously, like the time that Clive Palmer tried to set me on fire.
What?
Unsuccessfully. Oh, well, come on, Sarah. I'll tell the whole thing with pictures and moved readings from Clive Palmer's very, very little-known book of poetry, of which I have a copy.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
Sharing in the show.
Worth,
I feel like that could be a whole show
alone.
Now, your daughter,
yes,
she is a mini you, and she likes to troll you. Can we have a look at this little clip? This is adorable.
Oh, did you hear about old Malcolm Turnbull? Please. Oh, the sass. book that I read, it was called, like, Vegetables or something.
Good. She's gorgeous. She isn't a mini-me. Like, without the wig and the glasses, she doesn't... I mean, you wouldn't... Like, she looks different from me, but with the wig, it's frightening. So that was Halloween a year or two back where she went as the mummy with the collusion of my partner, Jeremy, who found the perfect wig, and then I just came home and there she was. But, like, all of my children really enjoy, like, savagely trolling me, and so...
Is she part of the show?
Unfortunately, yes. But I mean, like, this is not kind of like circus kids situation. Like, my elder daughter, who is, if anything, more vicious, has also introduced me. It's getting worse and worse. They're very cruel.
So you're naming 50 things that you've learned in your 50 years. You've recently turned 51.
That's true.
Is there one extra?
I can't
quickly.
count.
You can't count. You're learning to count, though.
Lifelong learning, mate.
Annabel is at the Melbourne Comedy Festival this week. Ticket details on our website. Huge thanks to Annabel Crabb.
Yay.